A very warm welcome to everybody who has taken out time to join us for this session. This is the third session in this series and is about electronic development control regulations as a service under the online building plan approval module, which is being offered in the UPYOG system. Today with us, we have Shri Manpreet Singh, who's the Chief Program Officer from NUDM, and Shri Pradeep Kumar, who's the Technical Project Manager at eGovernments Foundation, who will be working with us and delivering the details of the eDCR as a service. I would now like to invite Shri Manpreet Singh to please set the context and welcome the audience.
Prajita. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Ministry of Housing, Institute of Urban Affairs, NIUA, I welcome you all. Good morning, all. Today's session is primarily on is one of the sessions on the best practices on the online building plan approvals. So I lead National Urban Digital Mission in the country. The focus of NUDM is to digitalize these services, typically urban services in the country. Three categories of services: G2C, government to citizen services, wherein citizen directly applies for a service, like property tax or kind of a fire NOC. Then there are G2B services. Online building plan approval is a G2C and a G2B. Trade license is a G2B service. And third category, typically internal looking services like municipal accounting, asset management, other services like file management, HR management, which part of our scope. So under National Urban Digital Mission, we have a platform called UPYOG. It's an open source platform wherein already 10 services are part of the platform. States are openly they can join this platform, they can adopt this platform for development of these 10 services. Earlier we had 9 services. Recently we had also introduced fecal sludge management under sanitation as a service. We have already sent letters to all the states. Any state can license with us in case they want to have a demonstration of fecal sludge management, or for that matter any other service under UPYOG platform. So it's a session wherein you can look at how eDCR, the scrutiny engine, it facilitates better building plan approvals, service delivery. So over to Prajita back, just summarize it, and then Pradeep can take it over on the overall eDCR engine. Thanks.
Thank you, Manpreet. Nukul, can you please present? So broadly speaking, we'll be talking about what eDCR as a service means when we have offering building plan approval as a service for all ULBs. The broad agenda of the presentation today is current status of delivery of building plan approval. What are the disadvantages of the existing systems when we go through manual processes or legacy older systems? Then what is eDCR as a service and what are the features? Broad benefits of implementing it. What are the approach and process flows that we regulate or request to standardize from the states? And what are the current advantages and way forward? Building plan approval as a system is required by all ULBs for approval of plans for various categories as per the zoning regulations and various bylaws, normally locally known as the building bylaws. These could be standardized across all ULBs in the state, or could also be contextualized based on the individual requirements. What UPYOG offers as the online building plan approval module is a comprehensive platform that automates this process, quickens the time, provides easy access and easy delivery for both citizens and employees, right from the submission of the application as well as through backend services such as verification, approvals, etc. This is also very transparent and easy to manage for both the ULB employees as well as citizens, and provides a trust within the system that is essential for any interaction between service delivery as well as the citizens. What OBPAS also offers is a single window clearance system that facilitates getting building plan permits, but along with that, also the no objection certificates from various authorities that is needed, as well as other clearances. Next. Now I will hand it over to Pradeep to take it over from here. He's the technical project manager, as we have mentioned, from eGovernments Foundation and has been instrumental in supporting the NUDM in provisioning of this service. Over to you, Pradeep.
Thanks, Aparajita. Yeah, before I start, I want to share my experience in this field actually. So we implemented this in different parts of the country, including the biggest project in Hong Kong actually. What we observed when we started this is,
There's little echo in your voice. Little echo.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, this is better. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to first explain a little bit about what bylaws, what we studied actually. See, when we observed initially, we tried to solve this problem actually. We observed majorly each state has its own bylaws actually. So the bylaws what we are defined currently is not consistent across, it's not the same across all the states. A few states already adopted the national building bylaws, what the directions what they provided. But majority of the things what I observed is like the statewide bylaws are not consistent actually. The second one, even in each state actually, example, take some cities, what happens is the bylaws or amendments are happening every time actually by the state government. So some cities adopted the bylaws as defined by 2012, 2014 like that. It's not consistent across state also. This is one kind of problems we observe. The second one is the bylaws, what is defined, like corporations, they did their own amendments actually. The bylaws for the corporation, they modified as per their requirement. And example, like occupancy certificate. In occupancy certificate is not mandatory in all the buildings actually. They define saying that, okay, if the building is more than 2,400, then only occupancy certificate is required. That's how the bylaws they modified based on some corporations actually. In some cities, still they are following some 5 pages document which explains the entire bylaws actually. We implemented in cantonment boards also there. Hardly there are 3-4 pages actually because 1945 bylaws still they are following for all the cantonments. So the overall, the concept is the bylaws are not consistent and all are not following the same bylaws across the countries actually. And so managing this in a software is also very challenging actually when you're saying, okay, the bylaws should be, so these all should be provided in the software actually. By keeping all these things in mind, we developed eDCR service actually. So when we visited the field, what we observed is how it is impacting the field actually. So currently most of the places they are using the manual system. So manual system, when they are providing a drawing in a hard copy, they will verify and they will mark the corrections and then they will send it back and again they will correct. So it takes at least minimum 15 days just to do the manual scrutiny actually. And the scrutiny person also, it depends how he validating also matters actually, because based on his knowledge, the bylaws he will validate actually. He is not checking on the bylaws which is defined in the state bylaws or somewhere. So many places also this is observed that the state-wise bylaws are not defined actually. They are still in progress. It's in the cabinet level. It is not approved. It has its own problems actually. And few practices are adopted because every time when central government is doing some amendments, they are trying to adopt this every year as an amendment. And in this angle, example like EWS building, EWS when the features are adopted in few states only, it is not applicable to all the states. When you're constructing a apartment kind of concept, at least some 15% you need to dedicate it for poor people actually. These bylaws are added in few states actually, adopted by in few states, but it is not mandated in all the states. Okay, so manual process, these are all we need to consider actually. When the bylaws is started, what is we need to adopt, what are the amendment latest, then they need to manually, they need to check and validate all the scrutiny drawings actually. So it causes a lot of errors actually by doing this process actually. And we also studied some of the existing software. In some cities, they are already using some software. So here what happens, they provided some desktop versions actually. They'll do scrutiny first there, and then they will upload the same thing in the production environment. Here, every time when the amendments are happening and that the system is not inconsistent with what the version they are using, every time the upgradation is required actually. And some cases they need a proprietary licenses also. Every time when you're using the latest version of the software, they may ask us to use the latest version of the software of the AutoCAD or something. By this way, the proprietary softwares you need to upgrade by the architects actually. It impacts again on the citizen fees as well as it's a extra burden to the architects also. As an employee, they can't validate these drawings actually which is submitted actually by the along with the application actually, because they also there's a licenses required to validate this drawing actually in the software. So it is a bottleneck actually. It's not so easy for architects also to adopt the changes. If you want to scrutinize any drawing of any city, actually, they also need to study what are the additional bylaws added by the drawing actually in that city, and based on that they need to draw the diagrams. So these are all time consuming and it is more labor intensive. Go to the next one. By keeping all this in mind, what we did, we developed a eDCR service actually. We defined, this is an open source tool. We are using, it's UPYOG is it's an open source platform where we added eDCR is one of the service. We used almost all the open source tools only to develop this one actually. Here, the drawing format is in the DXF format. When you are drawing any drawings, actually, if you save it as .dxf file, we are using this file to upload and validate the bylaws actually. And our intention is to make it live actually, like every time architect should validate this online directly in the live production environment. They can test n number of drawings till he feels okay, this drawing is correct, and the same drawing he will use for further application submission. So as per the plan, eDCR service is an online system. There is no offline systems we define. Everything they will upload directly in the online system. So there is no charges involved in this way. So there is no license fee or any local software is required for this. And the stakeholders also, it's very easy actually. So what we did is we defined a standard format of layers actually. You need to use this format. And using these layers, if you draw the drawings actually, our system will understand when you're submitting the drawings actually. So what's the advantages here actually? Like once you upload this drawing actually, the same drawing parameters, the content we're using for the application process. So there is no changes required like fees calculation to decide the NOCs. All these things are easy when you submit the drawing actually. Okay, so it's a single window system. So I want to explain a little bit about the microservice architecture actually here, because in the UPYOG, we defined it as it is structured in the microservice architecture. As we defined the microservices as small services. So each service are independent, and these services we are using they are interacting each other actually using from one microservice to other service. If you observe here, eDCR service is one of the service along with the different services. We have around 50 services we define currently as in the UPYOG platform. And we divide it as a core service, multiple services, like that. We differentiate it again. So eDCR service is one of the service actually, which is very lightweight. And if you want to develop, it's also developer friendly. You just modify eDCR service also, we can make use. It's an API calls actually. Internally, it communicates from one service to another service using API calls. Please go to the next one.
I want to make another point here is that all these services developed under UPYOG are using one of these reusable microservices.
Yes.
Supposedly, recently, fecal sludge management FSM has been developed using some of these microservices only.
Correct.
So this is where whole open source microservices based UPYOG platform becomes very handy to develop new services.
So I'll explain few more things here. Take an example. When systems user wants to log into our system, actually when he is finding a location, when he is finding a SMS, when we are doing payment gateway integration, each one of these things are considered as a different services here. If you see here, there's a payment gateway, there is a billing service. So each one is considered as a separate service. It's easy to adopt a different microservices also by this approach. Example, workflow we defined here. This entire workflow we can replace with the third party also tomorrow. So we define that's the architecture of the microservices. So and it's easy to scale up also based on our requirement in production, based on the number of users. If the load is increased, we can increase the pod sizes, and in the performance also we can increase by that way actually. So eDCR is one of the containerized version we added actually, where this independently we can develop it and we can deploy along with the UPYOG in the platform. So the process what we defined is a very straightforward thing, like citizen first register in our system as an architect, or there are different roles again, the builders, architects, engineer, town planners. As per the bylaws, each architect, builder has their own, there is a restriction. Example, in some bylaws they define architect can submit up to 3 floors, and builders may construct up to 5 floors. So there are some bylaws also define these restrictions we can put easily. When they register in our system, first we made it as a centralized system. They can register in one place and state level approver will approve this. By that way, he can submit the drawings of any city in the state actually. That's the advantage. It's previously in some cities, they need to register in individual cities and they need to take approval, then only they can submit the drawings actually. But here, as what we designed is, it's in central place. They'll submit the registration. Across state, they can submit the drawings. But they can select any city, what they want, and they can submit the drawing. That's a registration process actually. Once it is, we internally define a workflow. On approval, he can submit all the drawings online itself directly. So drawings, once they prepare actually, they will upload drawings. And once I'll show the demo actually, how it works in our system actually. And using this drawing, if it is correct, everything is correct, they will submit using the drawing number to submit the further application process. Today, I'll explain what is the drawing parameters, how to upload the drawing, and how, if you want to enable one state actually, what are the roles required and what are the actions we need to do actually further. That we'll discuss further. So I'll present my screen. Nukul, I'll present. So this is our environment where I'm registering as a citizen now. So I need to select, we gave some cities as an example actually, how this behaves actually. I logged in as this, want to log in. Take an example now.
Already this scrutiny engine eDCR is live in Odisha, 3 states. Chhattisgarh is already doing it through our partner. Himachal and Haryana also, this is being deployed through our partners. So at least these 4 states have been very active in this implementation in the last 6 months. Other states, we can have a demonstration in detail also. Once this meeting is over, we can have one-to-one discussion also. Over to Pradeep.
Yeah. So few of my friends, they called me morning actually. Few are there already because we discussed this with Arunachal Pradesh. Kerala team is there here. So we implemented in this northeastern few states also, and they're in progress actually. Kozhikode is already there. It is live from last 3-4 years. They're using actually the system. Okay, see, I'm working as an architect now where I already registered. So this is a landing page where I can do 2 things. One is I can submit my building plan approvals or I can scrutinize the drawings. There are 2 things. One is the plan scrutiny I can do or OC plan scrutiny I can do. So the point here is, as per the bylaws, what it says, once you do the plan scrutiny, the same drawing, the same bylaws will applicable when you're scrutinizing the OC also. Because in the middle, let's think when I'm constructing 2 years, my application, maybe there are a lot of amendments in the current recent years, but when I'm applying OC, the same bylaws, what is I initially gave the permit, the same is applicable under OC also. In our system, we need to maintain the history also kind of thing, the bylaws. The application date-wise, we need to scrutinize in our system. So this is the landing page. Let's assume I want to upload some drawing. What I'm doing is I'm just selecting. Let's take an example. I'm just uploading the drawing. See, I got the output. So here there are two things. One is I got the download, the scrutiny report. If you observe, it takes few seconds to scrutinize this drawing actually. And once I scrutinize the drawing, if the drawing is correct actually, then I'm getting a DCR number. This is one of the DCR number I'm generating only if the drawings are correct. Otherwise, the system will give all the reasons where all it failed, all those kind. I'll explain you more on this report actually. So using this number, I can submit the application directly actually. So take an example. So advantage is what I submitted in the drawing, it will auto-populate in my application directly. So this total build-up area is this much, the height, number of floors. So the citizen no need to enter it again. So there is no manual entry in the system. What is there in the drawing, the same I can use and further process the application submission actually. I'll stop here because I'm concentrating only on the eDCR part. This is the advantage. The same drawing I can make use and I can submit the application. Another option here is I can submit multiple drawings actually. It is not necessary that whatever I submitted, I got the DCR number, I need to submit the application. I can modify it multiple times. Take an example, this is the report I got, right? So here, I just entered one or two fields actually, but there's a lot of other fields which are auto-populated from the drawing. And there is some declaration part we are taking in the drawing itself. See, these are all the things I have not selected anything. If I want to repeat here, I just selected the city, applicant name, and drawing. We made it very simple when we are scrutinizing actually, but all the contents we are auto-populating in the report, what is submitted. And we are showing overall summary actually, what is the total area of the build-up area, the floor area, and block-wise, what are the different residential buildings, everything we are showing the breakups actually. And the system will auto-calculate all these bylaws actually based on the parameters of the drawing. I'll show you the drawing, what it is doing. But if you go with this, the floor area ratio, the distance from the government building, the monument distance, if it is there. If any electric line is defined, then what is this is the bylaw number actually we are showing, the brief description. See, we can modify this report actually. Currently, we provided, this is the default report where we are validating the bylaws based on the drawing type what they submitted. So this is purely a residential drawing. Based on the residential occupancy, all these parameters are validated. So example, the parking is required, then we are checking whether it is in this much area is provided or not. So if it is accepted, we are adding whether it's accepted or rejected. And if some cases we need to verify in the field actually, we are just marking it as verification in the field actually. They mentioned this rainwater harvesting is required and they define in the plan, but they need to verify in the field. So either we are accepting, rejecting, or we are verifying. So this is the blockwise details again. The yard is called it as a setback. So this report we can modify because in some state they call it as yard, some places they call it as a setback, those kind of things. As per the bylaws, based on the occupancy, what is the minimum distance expectation is there, we are defining. So the system will auto-calculate these things and it will compare with what he provided the distance from the setback area, all these things, and the statuses are like that. So this is one of the example actually where you can validate the height, floor, all these cases, states, everything. Okay. I'll show you one of the drawing where it is not accepted. Let's assume if the drawing is not accepted, the system will explain what is not defined, what is error actually. But it is not stopping there only. Even when we are submitting the drawing, it will validate based on the remaining parameter. So that if I observe here, see this parking is wrong. Yeah, it expected is 23, but only 18 is provided, so it is not accepted as per this bylaw number 42 actually. So this way we are not. It's some of the or other software. What we observed is if you solve one problem, they will validate again. They will give the next set of problems. It's not like that here. We are trying to scrutinize all the bylaws as per the drawing first, and we are also showing those errors so that you can correct in the next drawing. You can modify all these things. You can correct it, and you can submit again. Actually, that's the plan. Here, eDCR number will not generate because if any one of the parameter is wrong, you're not generating a number, so that you can't submit this application for the next process. Okay. So going further, actually, the next thing what we can do is, so I want to show you how it works actually. I just uploaded this drawing actually. Let's assume this is my the drawing what they defined in the 0th layer actually. You want any questions?
When we are uploading the drawings, there is already mentioned in setbacks of the drawings.
Correct.
How the software will judge, because the bylaws get changed from Jammu region to Kashmir region. I am from Srinagar.
Correct.
So how it will get judged? What is the original bylaws? Because we have a different range height, we have a different concept. How we can feed that thing in that?
So I'll explain.
It is auto generating the things. It will maybe show the error because if there will be feed it that it requires 10 feet, we have mentioned in the 5 feet bylaws.
Yes, sir. So we'll present you at the end of the session. After 1 or 2 slides, I'll explain you what we need to do. Actually, there we'll get an answer to this question. I'll answer it. Okay. So how the system works? Actually, I'll explain you now. So currently, normally the architects will draw all the diagrams in the 0th layer. Actually, take an example. So as an architect, I draw. This is my 0th layer. I already defined the drawing, and now what I'm doing here is I'm just on top of this 0th layer, I'm adding my own layers actually. That's what we defined here. Actually, example, if I want to define my plot boundary, what we did, just we added the plot boundary here. So this is my plot boundary. If I want to define how it works is, if you take my 0th layer, this is my 0th layer. On top of that, I'm just marking a layer called, this is my layer name. It's a plot boundary. I'm just marking on top of the 0th layer. Okay, this is my 0th layer. Similarly, I'll define my setback, everything like this in this way. These are all my setback on this drawing. Example, this is my front setback. This is my rear side setback. This is my rear setback. I defined like this. The system will automatically calculate this minimum distance. Example, as I showed in the diagram, the minimum distance here, if you mark like this, the area, this is my road approach. The system will auto-calculate what is the minimum distance here. In this case, this is my minimum distance in this here. Here it is a straight, it's a rectangle, it is in all the sides, it's a common. But here, wherever these crosses are there, the system will validate what is the minimum distance here, and it will auto-calculate. And it will present the same thing in my reports actually. What is the minimum distance you marked in the drawing? This is, it is not in a dimension you marked here. The system will auto-calculate here. So this is one place actually. In some cases, this is only polygons you are drawing on the existing drawing. That's what, but we followed our own layer names here. It's very important to follow this. We added our own convention to understand this drawing. Otherwise, the system will not understand what you've drawn on this on top of your existing drawing, actually. The same way, you need to define your build-up area. If you take floor 1 build-up area, all these things, you are just marking on top of that. See, we followed some standard here, -1, 0, 1, this kind of thing. If you are defining your cellar, how you are defining? Say this is my floor plan. So in the floor, I am defining this is my build-up area. I'm just marking that. If any deductions are required in the drawing, I can mark the same thing there. So I'll explain you that all these things. There is a carpet area. If I want, I'll use this. Some layer standards actually. So these are all, that's how we adding the layers on top of the existing building. See this is my 0th layer. On top of that, I'm marking all this thing. So this is the concept actually we use. I'll explain now what is the, how this layer names we need to follow actually. But on the existing drawings, you need to mark all these things, the layer names, rooms, everything. So just a minute. So these are some of the examples, how I'm marking different colors, all these things. We define one plan info layer. What happens in plan info layer here is, this is the main layer where I'm declaring my some set of parameters. So this is an M text. We added a separate layer where I'm adding a predefined set of parameters. And I can also define my declarations also. Example, whether you are near to the railway station, you are near to the airport. I'm not asking all these questions in the UI anywhere. But as a part of the drawing, I'm declaring one layer as a plan info, where I'm defining all my MIS information I'll give, whether I'm near to the monument, whether, so these all, we can change these parameters based on your state requirement. It is, as a standard, we added few things, but you can add this as a modifiable fields actually. As an implementation partners, they need to modify these things as per your requirement. But the default one, what we defined also, you can make use. The same what I defined, example, a plot number. This we are presenting in the report output also when I'm showing here. So we are showing this information directly in this. So advantage here is what drawing you uploaded. Along with that, you also feeding all the information, and this is available in the system all the time. They can't modify this because the final drawing what we use, this that contains all these additional data also. And these declarations also. What declarations he gave, based on that, the system will validate. When I'm saying I am near to the government building, the government buildings related bylaws are validated. When I'm near to the monument related bylaws, the system will validate. If he's not declaring the drawing also, the system will ask, you not declared the monument distance. Those kind of functionalities, the system will, that intelligence we added so that it will go through the set of bylaws which are applicable based on these parameters. So there are some questions will come normally in other seminars, like what happens if the system, they are not defined properly, the layer names are not correct. So the system will not read that. So what you define, example, I defined the second floor, I am defining in our own way, different way. The system will not show here. So endpoint is like overall, you define this is the overall area. The architect will validate this. My overall area is correct, whether everything is coming in this drawing or not. Based on if everything is correct, then he will use this DCR number and he will submit the application. This is the overall plan. So, okay, so I will briefly explain a little bit about the layer names actually. So how these layer names be defined is also important, like the architect. So this is the part of the architect when he is defining. We grouped it based on the block, floor, poly. So normally they are using the polylines actually. When they are defining the polyline, they are using based on the block concept, floor concepts directly.
Sir, I have some. May I?
Yes, sir.
Actually, we are making all the floors polyline on outer periphery of all the floors.
Yes.
Accordingly, it is getting judged by system that this is ground floor, first floor, second floor.
Yes.
Or we are supposed to mention that this is second in form of different layer or different colors.
Yes, sir. I'll explain. So there are two ways.
And one thing is there, if we make the floors. Okay.
Yes. So let me complete this. I'll come to your point. See, when I'm defining, that's what I'm explaining the same actually. When I'm defining the default layer, see, when I'm defining here, this is a structure we use like block -I, this is a water closet. Example, this meaning is, this is related to block 1. If I have two blocks, I'll define block 1, block 2. This number I'll change. Similarly, floor, I'm also defining 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. So there's a typical concept also there. If the floor structure is common across all the 10 floor, I can say it's a typical. So that I'll define one floor and I'll mark the typical floor is from 1 to 10. So that you no need to define the 10 floors individually. So those concepts are adopted. But here, I'm just adding the layer names like this. Example, when I'm saying floor 0, the meaning is it's a ground floor. If I want to define my cellar -1, I'll define floor -1. Floor -2 means there are 2 cellars. Floor -3 means there are 3 cellars. If I'm saying floor 1, the meaning is it's a first floor. When I'm giving the layer name, when I'm marking, I'm just adding the area of the each floor using this layer name concept. Okay. I hope I answered your question. The same way.
How can we define the attic if we have an attic floor? The trusses are somewhere in the industrial area in Kashmir. There's a trusses, and we make some attic floor in the trusses. Are there any option that we can show that truss floor? Because we get all the sides, we get it projected at least 2 feet 6 inch minimum for use boards. Because some hilly regions are here in the J&K, we go for the trusses. Is it any option that we can mention the attic floor also?
Sorry, sir, I didn't get your question. Like
I will explain it once again. Yeah. Basically, when we go for, suppose I have a building of 3-story, and after 3-story, I make a headroom of a staircase, and I make a parapet wall. Okay, that's a terrace on the top floor. But some houses are covered with the tin roofs. That is called attic floor. Well, we make an attic. That means that's a top floor under the truss.
Okay.
And we make a big halls, because you might have seen some north lights in the industrial area. There's an attic floor. Sometimes they used to get false mezzanine floors. Is it any option to show these floors also, mezzanines? Sometime we can go for suppose you are saying the -1 will be the basement. So accordingly 1, 2, 3, if it's a typical, we can show +4 is a 4-story typical. But how can we show the mezzanine floor? How can we show the attic floor? Attic floor, that's which is under the truss. Is it any option in that? We can show that
okay.
also?
So I'll go with that approach actually. Let's assume I have a similar use case. So this is one of the template we prepared. Is it visible? Yes. So these are the layer names what we are using actually currently. When I'm defining my plot boundary, I'm just following this structure. When I'm saying this is one plot boundary is a common without any block information. So we added the footprints. We are adding the basement footprint separately and the coverage. So these are the examples. Okay, as I'll come to mezzanine floor. We defined see the ground floor, mezzanine floor may come in any areas, right? So I need floor, I need to define whether it's a mezzanine or not actually. So that we are adding, just a minute. So this is a mezzanine floor actually. When I'm adding the mezzanine floor actually, we are using this layer name actually. I'm saying in the block 1, floor 1, my build-up area of the mezzanine deduction. This is the layer names we followed actually, the mezzanine area and the deduction. So because the mezzanine may be there in the ground floor, it may be in the first floor, maybe it is in the combination also possible, all these cases. So we added it as an additional layer for separately for mezzanine in this case. So there are 2 ways to identify. One is by using the layer name, otherwise, and second one is the occupancy by. What is occupancy wise is like when I'm defining my layer names, actually, I can also define my build-up area. Take an example. In the ground floor, I have a residential plus commercial. How to differentiate this is the question. In the drawing, what I'll do, we are using a color coding standards. What is this color coding is? If the ground floor, this particular area is residential, I'll use a different color code. If my another part of the building is different area, I can define it as in the color code as some different color code. In the same way, when you're defining the top floor, when you're saying it's a different type of occupancy, you can use a different color code to mark that also, so that we can identify this is a building is of different type actually. So that way you can solve that. So there are different ways to solve. One is introducing a new layer name. Another way is defining it as identified with a different occupancy using the color coding. Now, so it's also a problem by doing that actually. Hello.
Yes, Pradeep.
Yeah, you can hear me, right?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay, so this is a standard naming structure we are using when we are saying block 1, floor 0, build-up area. So these are the standard layer structure we followed actually. So some cases there is no floor comes into picture. Directly we are saying it's the entire block level covered area. In some cases we are not even, which are outside the building. Example, I want to define my plot boundary, my setback, everything. We are directly using, setback is different. Setback we need block wise, but otherwise we are using directly this layer names. This is the standard we are following actually. So as I defined, the color coding is also very important. So this is one of the templates we prepared actually. This is, we are giving for the architect actually, when they are drawing the diagrams actually, as a part of the preparation for the new state to go live. This is the first sheet. You need to go through these layer names as a standard what is required. If you observe here, we try to cover most of the functionality which is required. Distance from the road, open state, passage. We give our own layer names actually. The naming conventions may be different in some cities actually. As I said, the yards they call in some places, they are calling setback in some places, those kind of things. But the layer names we can modify it actually. It is configurable statewide actually. It's not like we need to use the same thing. The second one is, we covered everything like water, sewerage, everything. We'll share this drawing parameter, and what you need to draw in each one also important. So in some places we are defining the polygon directly. In some places we are asking to give the direction. Example, when I am defining the height, you need to define the dimension in the elevation section. What is the height of the building, everything. So similarly, the color coding, some cases we need to mark the width, height, all those cases actually. Example, in a particular layer, I want to define in a different color. What is the width? What is the height? What is the length? Example, my balcony length, width, height, I want to define. So how I need to define? Because system will understand this is a balcony in the first floor. There are 10 balconies are there. But bylaw says you just check what is the width and height of the balcony. So we need to define the different color code. So that's what we define, what color code you need to use to define the width and height. And there are some occupancies. As I defined, we need to mark the color coding for each occupancies. Example, we gave these are the standard color coding. Like under residential building, there are hotel, apartments. When I'm defining my build-up area, I need to define I'm using the color codes and I'm defining the area in each floor. So by this way, we are printing the same in the output, and its system will understand, okay, this is the different occupancies available in the system. When I'm defining residential plus commercial, what bylaws we need to validate also very important. And when I'm defining my existing building is there, plus proposed building is there, the existing building area is also important to calculate my parking, setback, all this kind of bylaw. So to define this, we are approaching with the color coding or layer name concepts. So this is one of the layer matrix, what we prepared actually. We need to use this. So going ahead, how to approach this actually. So the first work, what we need to do is the rule book we need to study actually, and we need to convert it into logical formats. So generally we need to configure and these bylaws state-wise actually. When Jammu they asked actually, Jammu we have our own bylaws, Kashmir we have our own bylaws. How to differentiate this actually? So state-wise, if you have a common bylaws, what we proposing here is, we defining a standard template actually, where you need to choose what features are required, what occupancies are you are going live first. Maybe most of the cases, like 80% of the occupancies are residential bylaws are coming actually. And then commercial comes, then industrial, these kind of things actually. So you can go our production releases based on the occupancy wise also. The first version you can release, we recommend to go with the residential first. You understand all the residential bylaws, convert it into that, configure in the software, and start using and go line. And later you can go with this combination, residential plus commercial, so that there are mixed use cases also we can cover. So these are the different types we define. Example, when I'm saying commercial, I have only limited things here. I have not defined like electric shop, mechanical shop. They are not added here. The reason is, as per your bylaw, if bylaw says, okay, the large minimum setback is this much. My wedding hall minimum road width is this much, then only this requirement is required. Like, so you are defining it as a sub-occupancy under main occupancy. We need to study the bylaws. As I said, the bylaws are not so straightforward in some state. Example, this is one of the Jammu and Kashmir, I think, so where the bylaws are defined very straightforward, easily. They're saying if your area is 30 to 75 meters, the coverage is this, max you can construct 3 floors, and your setbacks are like this. But when you're coming to other states, the data is in this text format. You need to read this. Interpret this is very difficult actually. We need a seniors who can able to convert this into a format where it can be adopted in the software actually. So studying this is very important. They're saying, see, example, if the building height is more than 10 meters and the yard is 3 meters, is the front yard should be minimum 3 meters. So, and the depth should not be less than this. So we need to, so the developer, we can't ask them to go and read the bylaws every time. What we recommend is we need to read these bylaws, convert into a standard format. If the format we provided actually here, example, this is one of the example, we just converted it here. So all the coverage things we are added in one place. There are different type of occupancies. What is the coverage expected? What is the setback is required? So based on the bylaw number, the description, what is based on these conditions, we defined what are the different setbacks required. The same thing we did for floor, like the residential, what is the floor area ratio should be, industrial. So we added, so the developer, what he will do when he is developing a floor area feature, he just refer one sheet and he will configure actually. As I showed in the bylaws, it is not in one place. This side yard maybe is there in different places in the bylaw. Somewhere in the assembly occupancy, the front yards are different. So across the bylaw book, actually, the bylaws are, the functionalities are defined in different portions. So what we are doing here is we are consolidating this to one sheet, and this is the input to the developer or implementation partner who will adopt this in the software actually. You adopt, this is the default template. Take an example. This is, we do work with the COI code. So we added our own standard. This is developed, our architects, they prepared this format. Okay, so this is logical format. When my occupancy type is A1, my plot area is 125, my height is 7. If you see this order, right, it's easy to configure. My setback should be 7, 1.2 meters. That's what. So we converted that bylaw into this logical formats. Some other examples are like, this is some other client where they just added the setback, the functionality, and they added everything here. So what are the area wise, they have a different width, everything. This they converted into software format actually. We are not, so this is one of the template we provided as an example so that it is easy for you to decide, okay, what are the features required for my city to go live. So there are many things actually, but what is required, and prepare a similar sheet here and add all those bylaws here. So this is a conversion portion. This is the first part. This study we need to do, we need to convert into logical format. The second one is identifying the color codes and layer names. As I defined previously, the color coding is very important because here I need to give a different color code for each occupancies. When they are defining, we need to define what are the different color codes they need to use. And there is a template required for these architects. Example, what in other client places, what we did is we prepared this kind of one eDCR. This is a match property concept is there in auto eDCR, right? So they will just use this and they will map these layer names directly to the drawing actually. You don't need to remember all these layer names for the architect. So I'm just giving an example how it is added here. So I'm using a open source tool LibreCAD. I am defining like this actually. For each floor, I'm just giving a color coding, layer names. When I'm doing this match property, when I'm matching this with the concerned drawing parameter, automatically the layer name, color code, it will auto set. You don't need to mark manually everything. So this document is required for your architect where you are training, right? They need to use this document. This one document we need to prepare to go live actually for any city. The second one is you can prepare your own videos for the stakeholders so that they can refer that how to draw my plot boundary, how to define some small videos. This will help in your local language if you give. This will, architects will refer these drawings, how to draw this, how to match this property, and how to make use of in the system. The second one is, this will help a lot actually. You need to take a call like whether any third-party NOC integration is required or not, those kind of things. The major problem, major work in this program is testing actually. You can't test using the bylaws, you need a drawings for everything. So every time when you are adding this combination, you need a permutation combination of different drawing. When my plot boundary is more than 100 meters, what happens? Less than 100 meters. When my setback is less than 3 meters, what happens? These are the different test cases we need to test using a drawings. Trying to cover all these features in a standard drawing, the testing, it takes more time. We recommend once we standard, the bylaws are configurable, it not takes more than 1 or 2 months actually for the implementation partner to convert it into software formats. The more work is required in the initial stages to convert this, the standard bylaws, whatever is there, into a logical formats. Testing is a more work here. Implementing development is not so difficult because, as I mentioned, feature-wise we are configuring. When I'm as a developer, he will go through just one Excel sheet or whatever the parameters. He will configure this into a Java format, logical formats actually. So there are 3 portions here again. First, what we are doing in the software side is we are reading this drawing, extracting all the layers. We are validating if anything is wrong or not. The second one is using this data, we are comparing with the bylaws. So it is city-wise also possible actually. I can define state-wise bylaws or city-wise bylaws. And the system will automatically read. Example, when I'm saying Amritsar, if you define only that city has additionally setback has different rules, that will validate based on the city what I selected. But rest of the rules it will use by defaultly the state bylaws. So this is configurable in the system, and based on this, the report also we have prepared. Okay, there is a short of time. I'll go further. So this is the benefits actually. So even eDCR services, as I said, it's an API call. It's easy for us to adopt these individually, these services also. NIC example, NIC system, they just use this in eDCR engine and they develop the front end is something different. So by doing this way, 100% we can ensure that, okay, the same drawing is useful. I can forward the same drawing to the NOC department also. And same I'm using to fees calculation, everything actually. So it's very easy as I show the example. It takes very few minimal timings for an architect to submit the drawings online, verify whether my drawings are correct or not. If all are correct, he will submit the drawing further actually. So that's the advantage. So as a citizen also, it is very easy. Citizen can see all these things online itself. The citizen can pay online. He can download the certificates themselves online, the certified drawings actually. Architects also no need to think about the different city bylaws actually. The system will tell what he means, what is not drawn. No need to study the consent city bylaws. So based on the drawing mistakes and what is missing in the drawing, the system automatically will validate and it will tell in the scrutiny level itself. And based on that, they will submit the application, it will process further actually. Any Q&As, any questions? I want to stop here. So Jammu and Kashmir, you asked one question actually, whether I answered your question or you want me to explain further? Yes, Imtiaz, sir.
Yeah, actually, my question was, that has been clear to me about mezzanine, the floor in between ground floor and first floor, that's mezzanine. And another thing I was discussing about attic floor. When we cast this, suppose we have a residential house or any commercial building, what we do, we cover it with the truss and we make another floor came out over there. That floor we called an attic floor. So is it any option that we can mention that floor? Because in the bylaws we never show the height of the building as per the parapet or a slab. We show as per bylaws we said that the attic ridge floor height will be this or that. So there's a mention of the ridge floor of the attic, and a ridge is the center point of the highest center point of the truss. So is it any option that we can mention that also?
So when you're marking this, we can easily solve when you're defining the last floor. If I let's assume if I define a special color code for this example for the it's a residential building. The last floor, if I give a different color coding, take in 27, I'm giving for your occupancy, then you can identify easily in this building, the 27 color, this much area is there in the last floor means that is a epic floor actually. You can identify easily. Similarly, there's a bylaws also says, example, I'm a lawyer, I have a small building, a house of 50 feet of area of my firm consultation room also. This is considered as a residential building. So how we are marking is, we are also marking in the drawing itself is a different color code along with the residential. So we are converting internally that residential occupancy into residential. When I'm validating bylaws, we are considering, even though it's a small office, we're considering it as a residential building. The system, we need to configure these things actually. What is the different colors code we are introducing, and whether I need to consider this as a residential, or if it is, let's say example, if it is more than 50, we'll consider it as a commercial. So all the building bylaws are applicable as far as the commercial based on that. So using the color code, it will solve your problem.
So if we have a floor and suppose somewhere there's a mixed use, commercial and residential. If we have 2 floors commercial and upstairs is residential, so there will be 2 different colors in 2 different floors. Two will be commercial, and that will be defined by the colors, and upper stairs, which is residential, that will be also defined by its own color.
Correct. You're correct. See, that's how the system also will read, right? I can add different multiple mixed occupancies actually, but bylaws will validate based on the more preceding value. Example, when I'm saving my floor area ratio or coverage, if you are adding the commercial bylaws will applicable. It is not the residential. In some cases, you need to take a mixed use cases actually. You are validating a residential bylaws. Example, I want solid waste management is required or solar is required based on your area. So that is also applicable, but some places, if the occupancy wise, it will vary actually, the bylaws validation. Yeah. So this is the challenge in the system actually, when mixed users comes into picture, how the system we need to configure is also very important actually. The system will automatically decides based on the more preceding value.
There's a question in the chat box from Chennai, it seems. Can you read it?
Yeah, please. So several changes, rules of the building bylaws are adopted further. We need to create a single window portal. So this is an amendment actually. How the system happens is these amendments are common every year. As I mentioned earlier, if the central government has added any new schemes, all those things, the bylaws will change continuously. What we're doing is, it's not mean that they will change the entire bylaws. In some cases, what happens, they may added the setbacks they removed, or they may increase or decrease. They may added a new set of functionalities. Those kind of things will happen. So bylaws, what we are doing is we are keeping these bylaws also in the system like that. So till March 2023, the bylaws are changed from that particular day onwards. We are configuring in the backend coding in such a way that based on the application date, I'll pick the bylaws. As I said previously, when you're giving occupancies, I need to keep both bylaws actually. I need to keep old bylaws plus new bylaws. Based on the date of the original application, when I'm applying the OC also, I'm taking the original application date, so that based on that, I will validate the bylaws. The same way, you need to maintain the amendments in the system, the bylaws, so that based on the application date, you can pick you will choose the bylaws for an individual feature. Please share both PPTs, okay.
That was the only question, Pradeep.
Okay, DTP Chennai, any other questions?
Sir, good morning, sir.
Yes, sir.
This is the Superintendent from Directorate of Town Panchayat, Chennai, sir, Tamil Nadu. So we are in the stage of rollout in the single window portal of Tamil Nadu. How can we get into this?
Sir, it's again, the bylaws you need to cross-examine whether it's a statewide, is it common, or if I'm not wrong, your panchayat bylaws are different actually. When you are grouping this, actually, the system, how it identifying is based on the tenant. Currently, we give an example like city 1, 2, 3, 4, we explained, right? Your panchayats may vary actually. When you're selecting in the UI, when I am selecting a particular state, like in your case, it's a Tamil Nadu, when you're saying Madurai district, when you're selecting a panchayat, if you select, your bylaws should automatically pick the panchayat bylaws of the Madurai, right? That's how it should be. When you're selecting the urban local body, the bylaws of the urban local body may be different or it may be common across the state. When you're selecting a corporation, it will look the corporation bylaws plus state bylaws. That's how it is configurable.
Sorry, sir. Sorry for the interruption, sir. So now we are in the common combined by rules, sir. There is no separate rules for rural and urban.
Okay.
Now in combined rules.
So then it's easy, sir. In that case, it's a centralized. It's a common bylaws for all the state actually.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, of course.
Then it's easy, sir. For in your case, its implementation is not so difficult. Take the example, if your bylaws are different for panchayats, ULB, corporations are different. Then is it possible? The system, this platform supports you to configure it actually. It's not so difficult. As I said, you can configure city-wise, or you can group it based on the panchayat-wise or ULB-wise.
Okay.
So there is an identifier is there in the system, and that's why you are selecting the city. When you are selecting a city, I will choose what validations I need to do actually, whether it belongs to the city is a panchayat or ULB or corporation. Based on that, it will take a call.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, any other questions?
There is a question from Puducherry Planning Authority, Pradeep.
Yes.
It's in the chat box.
Okay. So you can ask directly if you want. Okay, sir, about customization, projection in setbacks, sunshades, balconies, porticos, all these things. Okay. See, some cases what happens, see, bylaws, see, it covers in some other ways. Example, I'll tell you. So we define some balcony, all these things, but as you coverage, we define the layer for that also. What we are doing is the overall projection also we are taking actually. We can define that bylaw actually. And we are, I forgot the layer name. There's a layer we defined actually. The projection, what we are doing is the projection layer, we are capturing all these things actually. You need to define overall projection of your building that we are comparing with your, what is that, plot boundary. It should not cross that, the minimum distance, all those things required. Those things we are validating. So that is there actually layer name. You need to use that and you need to adopt actually. See, as I mentioned, some of the cases it is handled in the setback actually. When you're defining the setback, you're already giving 3 feet minimum distance, all these kind of things actually. But it does not mean that you can't cross your balcony more than 3 feet, right? That additional validation we need to add, saying that in that case, when you're doing the validation, balcony area, your width should not be more than 3 feet on that side actually. That additional customization we need to do if it is specific to Pondicherry actually. See, the same thing actually, when you're saying the distance between two buildings, the height, so those one or other bylaws will fail actually. So why we are defining the bylaws is more majorly to get the more proper structure should be proper. The citizen should get the proper air, light, ventilation. These are the main reasons to define all these bylaws, right? So one or other bylaws, it will fail actually if they try to correct in one place actually. As in this your case, you are saying setback, the projection should not cross your setback actually. That way, if you validate your whatever this portico weight, all these things, it will solve your problem actually on that side. So we'll share this, the layer names, what we defined actually most. So this is we used for across the northeastern state. We is adopted already in 2-3 state implementations. It is working actually. If any, there are minor changes if required as per your state bylaws, we need to announce that.
Good afternoon, Pradeep sir. I have a basic query, although you have already answered partially before. Can we like consider a state wherein there are multiple 4 departments, a town country planning department, directorate, Shahri Vikas, or a metropolitan department, and they wish to be on a one single sign-on platform? Can we utilize this particular platform and can have and basis the all 4 departments are having different bylaws defined? So can we integrate that on one single sign-on basis of you?
It's possible. See, as I previously mentioned, I am deciding based on the tenant actually. When you're selecting a city, a particular city, I need to configure it in such a way that, okay, it comes under this department actually. If you configure this, the system will automatically use those bylaws of the department wise.
So even if further it has bifurcations of residential, industrial, commercial,
Yes,
or
yes.
mixed any kind of structure.
Yes.
Okay.
It's nothing but your city actually. Take an example. Take in Punjab, Amritsar, you're saying Amritsar has its own set of setbacks, its own bylaws, height validation, all these things. What we're doing is we are configuring city-wise configuration, right? It's a department-wise configuration in this case. When I'm selecting a city, and let's assume in the UI itself, if I select both city and town planning department, it's also a problem. Based on these two combination, I can validate the bylaws. That customization. So by default, we added a logic how to pick these bylaws. Currently, it's a city, division, we are district and state. We are added in this order actually. Okay, so what do you mean by district is, let's assume at district level, I want to configure some bylaw. What happens is at city level, I said, okay, this belongs to Madurai district. Okay, so all the cities, when I'm selecting the Madurai cities, this bylaw will applicable now. That's how we can configure that one also. The same way, in your case, it's a department wise. If it's the city map to this department, you can validate the department wise actually.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pradeep. Do we have any other questions? Okay, thank you so much to everybody who has joined us today for this session. Please write to us on the email ID from which the letter was sent in case you have any queries. Thank you so much, Pradeep, for joining us and for your time with this session.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We will now be closing the call.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pradeep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.